isn't having an impact, or if you don't even know that the coaching is having an impact, then why are you doing it? You need to be working on progress to goals with any program to make sure that you're continuously reevaluating it and making any changes to the program that might be necessary. Again, it's all about increasing student outcomes. So this could be aligned with state accountability. It could be aligned with something like college placement tests. I'm not sure. Each district might have their own metrics with which they want to evaluate and assess the progress of instructional coaching programs. It could be aligned with report card data. It could be aligned, I'm not sure, but there should be some sort of clear metrics in which to evaluate and assess the progress of instructional coaching programs. It could be as simple as qualitative, as, giving the teachers a survey and making sure that the teachers are learning and growing from the instructional coaching that's taking place. Again, this brings us back to you have a partner in this entire process, and I promise we will figure this out together. So those were the best practices that I wanted to bring to light today. Now I'm going to get into some different models, and there's really, this is kind of like an umbrella. So the umbrella part of this is that there's really two different directions that instructional coaching can begin with. One is the consultative. So this is where the coaching is initiated by the teacher and who seeks expertise for assistance in areas in need for professional growth. And so this would be your ready and willing teachers. And this type of instructional coaching is usually pretty successful because the teachers have actually signed up themselves. They want the coach. They already have some goals in mind where they want to grow professionally. They've bought into the process. They understand the vision. And working on one of these models right now with growing the dual credit teaching force. And it's true, the teachers that signed up are very much, they were very much educated in what they were doing and why they were signing up, and they wanted to do it. And so they're working very hard to meet the goals that they set each and every month. And as the instructional coach, I'm seeing progress. But the big key there was they were the teachers that were ready and willing. So that's the consultative approach. Then there's the directive approach. And that's where coaches or administrators initiate the coaching. The coaching takes a prescriptive approach and may be used to address identified performance problems. And so that is a harder model to navigate when you're an instructional coach, because the teachers tend to think of you as more of an evaluator with that instructional coaching approach. So that's where, again, the administrator is extremely important to come in and provide the message of the roles and responsibility of the coach. So in the grant that the Early College Expansion Partnership grant that I worked on in South Texas through Educate Texas, the teachers were, it was kind of a combination of the consultative and the directive. And I think the combination worked well for the purposes of that work, because one of the big series of action in that work was that if we increase the rigor in the classroom through instructional coaching, then the students will be more successful in dual credit courses. So we had to touch everybody So we really did have to work with the school administration to choose teachers with some strategy every year. So the teachers were chosen, but at the same time, we gave the teachers the opportunity to set their own goals around the framework that we were coaching, the pedagogical framework that we were coaching. So we took a combination approach, and that seemed to work well, giving the teachers that ownership of their own instructional improvement goals was very important. So those are the two main models, and additional characteristics of those you can see. But again, I want to say that some of these characteristics can be combined. This doesn't have to be black and white. So under the consultative, you see collaboration, inquiry-based coaching, peer-to-peer coaching. Under directive, you see supervisory coaching focused on teaching behaviors and expert to novice coaching. You can still have a directive approach where you, as the school principal, choose different coaching cohorts, and then the coach can still use the characteristics of a consultative model to coach. So it doesn't have to be just black and white. So the coaching that I've led before, we've chosen the teachers, but we've coached through a more consultative approach, which has really been more of a mentor-type collaboration with the teacher. So getting into these models a little bit deeper, I want to get in deeper into the Kansas Coaching Project. I know you guys have probably all heard about Jim Knight. And his model is a consultative model, and he really believes in working with the teacher to first identify a goal, to choose a teaching strategy that's going to help the teacher meet that goal, to really go deep in learning the teaching strategy and practice the teaching strategy, and then practice makes perfect to continue improving that teaching strategy until the teacher hits the goal. Well, once the teacher hits the goal, then the coach's work with that teacher is pretty much done for the time being. It's kind of like having a life coach. A person signs up to have a life coach because there's an area in their life that they'd like to work on, and when they've met their goal, well, they don't have their life coach anymore. And he's identified some principles that I think are very important, really, in any coaching model. And those principles begin with equality. So again, it's that partnership that I've already talked about. The teacher allowing to have some choice and voice. So that would be the teacher being the one, as I've mentioned, to identify their goal and even have some voice in choosing the strategy that they think is going to help them achieve that goal. It could be a strategy within a certain framework of strategies, but still the teacher has some voice with that. One-on-one coaching, in my experience, has probably the most benefit. So it's that one-on-one dialogue with the teacher. However, that does take more capacity. But the principal setting up dialogue in some way, shape, or fashion, whether it's time to have one-to-one dialogue or small group dialogue with teachers. Jim Knight his research shows that reflection is very important, so it would be that inquiry-based method. Coaches being really good at asking the types of questions that will help the teacher reflect on their practice. And then practice, which is having the time to practice the strategy while learning the strategy. So not expecting the teacher to be perfect at the strategy the first time they lose it. And I think that's really where coaches can help teachers feel safe. because as human beings, we don't like to make a mistake in front of others. It's the same thing with students in the classroom. We have to make sure our classrooms are safe environments for them to feel comfortable to have dialogue with the teacher, with their peers. And so this is setting up the safe space for teachers to practice while they're learning. And then the reciprocity. I think it's very important that the teachers get a sense from the coach that the coach is learning from them too. And I can say in all the years I've been working with instructional coaching, I still learn from teachers every day. They always have great ideas that they build my capacity while I'm building theirs. And I take to another school and I share. So these are very important principles that if you're working with training instructional coaches that I would say would be something you want to establish. So this is Jim Knight's cycle of instructional coaching. Now, most of the coaching models that I've worked on have been a little bit condensed. However, all of these, if you've got the capacity and the time, all of these are very, very important. I'd say the teacher enrollment is extremely important for teachers to understand what if they've been directed to have a coach, if they haven't signed up on their own, they need to understand what it is they've been assigned to do. And so that's that teacher enrollment, really being able to establish the relationship with the person before the coaching begins. And so what the coaches did on this grant that I led in Texas is they did have these interviews during the first couple of weeks of school. They really got to know the teachers a few times before they started doing any type of collecting data in the classroom. They established the rapport. And when time allows, you know, we all know that building the relationship, building the culture is extremely, is a very high impact strategy for achieving outcomes. Then his cycle includes the collaborative planning, which is actually working together with the teacher on planning the new teaching practice and working with the teacher to build the rubric. Then in his cycle, the coach models the lesson before the teacher teaches the lesson. There's a post-conference, and then after that post-conference, then the teacher delivers the lesson. And then there's collaborative data exploration. But remember, with his model, once the teacher has met that goal, the coach doesn't necessarily continue to work with that teacher, although the coach does give the teacher continued support based on teachers' requests for support. So this is a very in-depth model. If you have the capacity and the time, you might want to explore it further. In the models that I've worked on over my experience, they've really involved a teacher enrollment, planning, and observing, and a post-conference with continued support. But the cycle continues and continues and continues throughout the year. Here's that part that I said, and I've only got 10 minutes left, but here's that part that I said I was going to share earlier in the presentation. These are the different roles. And if this is hard to read, this PDF of the presentation is already posted on the Community of Practice, and Caesar said he was going to post it as well. But this helps define the role of the coach for all of these different models: student-centered coaching, teacher-centered coaching, and relationship-driven coaching. And so really, these are three different models within the consultative and directive approach. So you can see that when you're building an instructional coaching system, you really need to think about what are your outcomes. And I know the type of coaching that seems to really help teachers be more trusting and be more reflective is a combination of the student-centered coaching and the relationship-driven coaching. So if I go in and I'm looking at what students do, and I'm looking at student assessment data and talking to the teacher about what their students are doing as compared to what they're doing, that helps the teacher actually reflect on what they're doing without me, without me telling the teacher in a direct way what they're doing. So that's a combination of those two approaches are what I would recommend would be more amenable to the teacher than a teacher-centered coaching model. There's another method. This would be, I don't know how many of you have heard about Elena Aguilar, but she is a very renowned instructional coach. She's written a book, The Art of Instructional Coaching. I highly recommend it. Her model is inquiry-based and cognitive coaching, and that's really that reflective part that Jim Knight talks about in his 7 principles. But it's working with the teacher as a partner about what do we see that can be improved. Not what do I see, but what do we see. If you're going in with that student learning centered coaching, it's teachers being able to think about through reflection what they would do differently based on the way students are learning. And it's also, this approach also really combines professional development and modeling more so than the other models. So with this approach, the coach needs to be really well trained in reflective questioning techniques and the lens in which they're looking at instruction, and being very careful not to jump to assumptions or perceive things through one lens, really learning how to assess through a variety of lenses to develop those reflective questions. This approach does take time before the debrief to come up with the reflective questions you want to be able to ask the teacher. So if we combine some approaches, and I've kind of already talked about this throughout the presentation here. So again, this is the combined approaches here that I've seen that has worked. So the teacher enrollment period is something that I would not ever leave out of a coaching model if you can help it. So it can still, the teachers could still be administration selected, but they need to have the voice in goal setting and time to get to know their coach. The coaching cycle, I've said this before, I think the collaborative mindset is more beneficial than the directive. Goes back to what I had said earlier about teachers, about the coach respecting the teacher's autonomy for making their own, making their instructional decisions. One thing that I've often said to teachers as an instructional coach, and said to those I managed as instructional coaches, I'm never the expert in the content area. I don't care if I did teach math for 20 years, but even when I go into a math classroom now, I'm not going to presume to be the expert in the content area. I'm there to help the teacher think through the delivery of the content and respect them as the expert in the content area. And then that continued support in the form of professional development, group coaching, PLC facilitation. These are all things that instructional coaches can do. I want to go back to the structural support that's so important for the school district and for the principal. I will say that I've seen this happen before where principals did not understand the role of instructional coaches, and instructional coaches were being used for more managerial duties than coaching duties, and you know, before they did it, they didn't have instructional coaches anymore. So it's very important that the district provides the support to the school level principal to set those goals, to set that system, to set those outcomes, and then the principal communicates that to the staff. Ensuring adequate time and resources. So I could have done part of this presentation of the whole going into how do you think an instructional coach should spend their time. That's something you need to think out very clearly. Do you want your instructional coaches to spend 60% of their time in one-to-one conversations, 30% of their time in in professional development, and 10% of their time in administrative duties? You know, figure that out. What amount of time is aligned to the outcomes that you want to achieve? And then always make sure that you're evaluating the impact of instructional coaching so that you can revise and tweak the system along the way that's needed. And so here's a quote that I took from some of the research, and this one is, everyone who is involved, teacher, coach, principal, should all be aware of the purpose and targeted outcomes of coaching. And I think that's when coaching breaks down, is when the people involved in it don't know what it's all about, don't know what the goals are, just don't understand it, clearly don't understand it. And that's why I had that little cartoon at the beginning that I showed you all. Here's my slide on role and responsibilities. So you can see here that the instructional coach, you see the word supporter a couple times. The instructional coach can also help the teachers understand their data, can also help the teachers learn how to use their data to make instructional decisions in their classroom. We did some of that on our early college expansion grant in Texas. That instructional coach is the agent for change, but really importantly, the instructional coach understanding that they're a learner too, that they're a resource. The principal is that communicator. The principal is the evaluator, not the instructional coach, or the assistant principals, however that system is set up in your district or in your school. The teacher is the instructor, the learner, the learning partner, the assessor. I think it's really important for the instructional coach always to remember that the teacher is the expert in their classroom, that they are there really to support and be a thought partner. So this is one of my this is one of the ways I was going to close the presentation. And so if I had some advice for instructional coaches, it would be to really know how to coach. Hopefully you've been to some trainings on working with adult learners, that you really understand the teaching practices, more than understand, you're able to demonstrate the teaching practices that you're being asked to teach others. There's that understands how to work with adults, that you know how to analyze data, to monitor it, and I would say even to take that a step further, that you know how to use it to make data-driven decisions, that you've gone through some leadership training, and that you also possess good communication skills. So that really takes me to the end, and I think, yep, well, we started a little late, so I'm just about right on time. I don't think I muted anybody. Is there anybody there that, I do see you guys are muted. So if you have a question and you want to unmute yourself, I'd be happy to answer any questions. All right, well, I hope, did I give you guys enough time? I hope that this, I know it was pretty overarching. It had a lot of information. I did post a couple of resources that I used. All of these models, or parts of these models, I've used before in my practice, my instructional coaching practice now, and also when I've led instructional coaches. My information is on the community of practice, but also right here, if you ever want to ask me some deeper questions about instructional coaching and specific outcomes, I'd be happy to talk to you more. Caesar, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I'm good. I really want to thank you, Catherine, because you've done a fabulous job under pressure. That's what educators do, right? And I know we probably lost a lot of people at the beginning, but what we'll do, if you would reach out to them, Catherine, and send them your PowerPoint. I gave you all their emails and stuff, so if you want to just reach out to them,
I will.
Feel free to do so. And we want to thank all of you guys for hanging in there with us. Thank you very much.
I will reach out to them, Caesar. Thank you so much. And guys, thank you for sticking with us today as we started a bit late. I appreciate you guys attending. You guys have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.